Professional wrestling is the one true sport. Other sports have their share of intense, dramatic moments, but nothing can compare with professional wrestling. Welcome to WrestlingHistoX, where three friends come together to talk about the stories behind the matches. I'm still here all by myself. Yep, some more scheduling issues, so not able to get all together to record this episode. But I'm Matt, and I'm here for you on this episode 347. We're going to cover WWF Monday Night RAW. That's right. This is the 296th episode of Raw, produced by WWF. It would take place on January 25th, 1999, from the America West Arena in Phoenix, Arizona, with an attendance of 13,538 and a TV rating of 5.5. Now, if you remember, this is the same date as last week's episode when we covered Nitro, and that episode was a 5.0 for them. So we're still pretty close in the ratings this week. This episode, you can find it on Netflix, so if you want to watch along, you can always do that. And even though Shane's not here, we still got to talk about some food from around the world, specifically from Arizona. And we're going to go with something that seems to have been, the researchers agree, was created by accident in a Mexican restaurant in Arizona. And that is the chimichanga. That's right. History basically says that Monica Flynn, who was the founder of the restaurant El Charro Cafe, accidentally dropped a burrito into a deep fat fryer in the early 1950s. And she immediately began to utter a Spanish profanity, beginning with chi, but she quickly stopped herself, exclaiming chimichanga, which is a Spanish equivalent of thingamajig. Yeah, so that was a fun little history lesson that I just learned a couple minutes ago as I was doing research for this. But I went and grabbed a chimichanga from a local place right around the corner from me, from Hidalgo's. And they basically just take flour tortilla and they lightly fry it to a crispy golden brown. I got some shredded chicken in it with some sour cream sauce, because that's what I like. But what was interesting, actually, about this Hidalgo chimichanga is that it felt like they had put a layer of cheese on the inside as well, because like literally every time I cut into it, it was like a cheese pool. And so it was different than what you would normally think of with the chimichanga, but it was very good. So if you haven't had a chimichanga, check out your favorite Mexican restaurant that you have around you. You know, even Tex-Mex, like it's probably more of a Tex-Mex recipe than an actual Mexican recipe, especially since it was created in Arizona. But you should try one out. Let us know what you think of the chimichanga. What's your favorite Mexican dish? But something else that would happen right around the same time as this Monday Night Raw, and I kind of mentioned it last week because it was Gene Siskel's very last written review, She's All That would hit theaters the very next weekend. You know, Freddie Prinze Jr., Rachel Lee Cook, she took those glasses off and she was a hottie. I mean, it's what we all look for in a woman, right? Let's see here, who else was in this? Matthew Lillard, Paul Walker, Jody Lynn O'Keefe, Kevin Pollak, Anna Paquin, Kieran Culkin, Usher was in it, Little Kim, Gabrielle Union. Wow. Like, I knew this cast was like stacked, but there are a lot more people in it than I remember. But yeah, it's like the Freddie Prinze Jr. makes a bet with his friends that he can turn a socially inept girl into the prom queen. And spoiler alert, shenanigans happens and miscommunications happen. And she finds out about the bet, and that's never good for you. But they do fall in love at the end. As much as falling in love you can do when you're in high school. But if you've never seen She's All That, it's actually one of my favorite high school movies that was out there back in the day. I don't actually recognize either of the director or the writer. Let's see here. The director, Robert Iskov. What else have they done? Oh, From Justin to Kelly, the American Idol movie. There's a winner. Looks like they basically did a bunch of TV movie type stuff, and She's All That may have been their biggest hit they ever did. Oh, they directed they were a TV director for a long time. Miami Vice, Star Trek Next Generation, 21 Jump Street, Wise Guy. Wow. How about the writer of this movie? R. Lee Fleming Jr. What else have they done? Well, they went on to write on Friends, so Shane would be into that. Some One Tree Hill. I guess there was a movie a couple years later called Get Over It. Looks familiar because it has Kirsten Dunst and Ben Foster in it. Cisco was in it. Another great cast. I don't know if I've seen this one though. It feels like almost the same kind of setup, just not a bet, but instead it's literally the same setup. So maybe this guy just had like one thing that he could do really well, and that was the high school boy meets weird girl and falls in love. It's not a bad story. It's what everyone wishes for, right? But enough about She's All That and subsequent other films. Let's talk this Monday Night Raw. And once again, all by myself, so probably get through this pretty quick. But we open with a "Don't do this at home" warning, followed by the WWF Attitude Package. We then get stills from last night's Royal Rumble. That is a reminder. This is the night after the Royal Rumble. And we see the corporation destroyed Austin during it, but he would return in an ambulance to make it to the final two, when The Rock would distract Stone Cold, leading to Mr. McMahon winning. We then get the opening video package, followed by the corporation being in the ring, with Shane McMahon introducing Vincent Kennedy McMahon, who struts his way to the ring and bragging about kicking Austin's ass last night to win the Royal Rumble. Vince also puts over The Rock for making Mankind scream, "I quit," and decides to give the champ the $100,000 bounty in cash tonight, before assuring Rocky he doesn't have to be afraid to face McMahon at WrestleMania, as he will be removing himself as the number one contender. And Vince continues that he does have the right to name the person to challenge the champ at WrestleMania, but it won't be Austin, as he's run out of chances. But Stone Cold then appears on the Titantron via satellite from San Antonio, telling everyone he will be going to WrestleMania to face The Rock, before the commissioner Shawn Michaels appears as well to agree with Austin. And this is the first time we've seen Shawn since he got hurt, like thrown into a car window on an episode of Raw a couple weeks ago. From everything I can gather, it's also the first time he has appeared since that as well. And Shawn lets everyone know that he's recovering quite well from, having his head rammed through the windshield, followed by saying he's protecting Stone Cold from himself, because he knows that Austin would destroy McMahon if he was in Arizona. Michaels then mentions that there is a clause that says if the winner of the Rumble is unable or unwilling to compete, the runner-up of the Royal Rumble gets the rights to meet the champion at WrestleMania. So therefore, Vince, you just checked yourself out and checked Stone Cold in to main event Mania. And like the entire corporation's like freaking out because how do you not read your own rules, Vince? But, you know. And Austin does let McMahon know that he wants to beat him up more than he wants the title. So he will put his spot up at St. Valentine's Massacre in a steel cage match, guaranteeing to kick Vince's ass and walk right into WrestleMania to face the champ as we go to break. And we come back to Michael Cole and Jerry the King Lawler welcoming us as an armored car pulls into the building. But we go to our first match, Goldust with Head versus Badass Billy Gunn with Triple H and Chyna. And before the match gets going, Hunter takes the mic to talk about how The Rock has been running his mouth about making people say, "I quit." But he doubts he made Mankind say it, and he knows Rocky can't make him say it. So he challenges the champ to an I Quit match tonight for the title. And as DX is leaving the ring, the Golden One attacks Badass from behind, hammering away, followed by a reverse slam and setting up for Shattered Dreams. But the ref steps in the way to prevent Goldust from delivering it. This allows Gunn to fight back with strikes and clotheslines, whipping the Gold One to the ropes, who comes back with a crossbody, only for Badass to duck, sending Goldust out to the floor. And the Golden One's music hits all of a sudden, and out walks Blue Meanie in an all-blue robe and a blonde wig on. While inside the ring, Goldust has recovered to cradle up Gunn for a 2 count, before a spine buster. And the Golden One then sees Blue Dust, who grabs Head to smack Goldust with, allowing Badass to nail a piledriver for the pin and the win. And some backstory here. If a few weeks prior, the Golden One had actually stolen Head from Al Snow. So the Job Squad have been trying to get it back ever since. And now it looks like Blue Dust has done the job. We then go backstage to see Mankind walking into the arena as we go to commercial, when we get the WWF Slam of the week, where Kane chokeslams The Rock and Test. I don't know if they're keeping him heel, making him face. I think they're just making him a badass, basically. We then come back to more steals from last night's Rumble, where Foley lost the WWF Championship due to ladders, sparks flying from being thrown into transformers, handcuffs, chair shots, and 2 words no one thought he would ever say. Back in the arena now, the Oddities are in the ring when Rocky comes out, taking a mic to tell them to hit the road. So the group obliges, and The Rock then talks to Triple H, saying that he never beat him, and that if it weren't for Chyna, Hunter wouldn't have won that match at MSG. So he accepts the challenge for tonight. And what he's talking about is back at SummerSlam when they had the ladder match. We then go outside to see Mankind attacking security to take the bounty money, before making his way into the arena, proceeding to toss money into the crowd. And Foley has a mic in hand, and he starts talking to Rock, saying he doesn't remember saying that he quit last night. So Mankind has solved the mystery, sending it to footage from Sunday Night Heat, where he screamed, "I quit," several times, with Shane McMahon responding, "Thank you for those kind words." And Foley didn't know what Shane meant at the time, but after footage of him screaming it during the pay-per-view, he put it all together. So he challenges The Rock to a match during halftime of the big game in an empty arena match, which Rocky accepts as we go to break. And we come back to Midian at the announce table, rambling about how Evil will be coming tonight before he has to leave. Like, Mideon's not all there, guys. He's just not. But that takes us to our second match. Droz versus George Steele with the Oddities of Kurrgan, Giant Silva, and Golga. And we haven't seen George Steele in the ring since WrestleMania 4, episode 18. I think that might be the longest between matches we've had so far. And Drozdov has a mic telling the animal to get his freaks out of the ring so he can kick his hairy ass all over. And the Oddities leave to the back while Droz and Steele lock up when the animal bites Drozdov and a turnbuckle, ripping it off, only for Droz to sneak up from behind to slam Steele headfirst into the exposed corner for the pin and the win. Post-match, officials and the Oddities rush back out to save the animal from a beatdown as we go to commercial. And unfortunately, we won't see Golga again until 2001, Giant Silva until 2002, and this is the last time we will see Kurrgan. We then come back to Doc Hendricks in a studio, and he does a recap of the Royal Rumble with some stills from Road Dogg versus Bossman before sending it to an interview with the former correctional officer. And Big Bossman says James found out there was no way he could take him out, followed by turning his attention to Austin, that everyone found out that he's just a man, telling the people to jump on the corporation's bandwagon as they're gonna rule for a very long time. And we go back to Doc to give results of the entire Royal Rumble card with still pictures, which this was just a weird segment, and I kind of wonder if it was just on a videotape, because I should mention, I didn't watch it on Netflix. Once again, back when WWE was where they were moving stuff to, we weren't sure what episodes were going to be on Netflix, what weren't going to be, so we found versions of the shows, and I'm watching those because that's what not all of us have Netflix. We try and watch those instead, just so we're all watching the same version, basically. We then go back to Raw, where Cole shows us footage of the corporation during the break, with the Stooges forcing Shamrock and Bossman to drink something with saltpeter. And I looked up what saltpeter was. It's a potassium nitrate. It's used in production of gunpowder. And they're making them drink it to prevent them from being distracted by Debra. No clue what the point of this was. I mean, I get the point of not being distracted by Debra, but why drinking something with saltpeter would help them not get aroused, I guess, is my guess. Kevin Kelly is then with the former Mrs. McMichael, who says no one can resist her when Mark Henry arrives to hit on her. And Debra seems a bit interested. He is sexual chocolate. But that takes us to our third match. The Corporation, a Big Boss Man and Ken Shamrock, versus Double J, Jeff Jarrett, and Owen Hart with Debra for the WWF Tag Team Championships. And the champs came out first. Foreshadowing. And we get footage from multiple heats and Raws from the past few weeks where Debra had used her charms to distract opponents, allowing Jarrett and Owen to gain victories, which shot them up the tag team ranks. And she tries to distract Bossman to begin, but I guess the saltpeter did its job, as he wants Double J, hammering away, hitting a big boot, until Jarrett connects with a back elbow and a dropkick, only to miss a running straddle. And Big Boss Man regains control with an atomic drop, strikes, and a baseball slide throat thrust from the floor, followed by a scoop slam for a 2 count. And Double J avoids a corner charge to bring in Hart for a double team clothesline and attempting the sharpshooter. but Bossman powers out to tag in Ken to stomp away. Owen then ducks a roundhouse kick to nail an enziguri, only for Shamrock to answer back with a side Russian leg sweep and kicks. A reverse whip then leads to Hart delivering a power slam and a spinning heel kick, before heading to the top for a missile dropkick. But Ken sidesteps and drops his opponent with a belly-to-belly suplex, as Debra climbs to the apron and taking off her jacket. And Jarrett's even helping her remove clothes at this point. Like, Double J, a couple months ago or so, she had to get undressed after that one match, and Jarrett was kind of like totally against it. He's totally helping her remove clothes now. He's like bought in completely to, hey, we could win matches this way. Shamrock's distracted at first, but still applies the ankle lock until Double J runs in to break it up, leading to Big Boss Man coming in as well to brawl with Jarrett to the floor. And all of a sudden, the blue blazer comes out and smashes a guitar over Ken's head, allowing Hart to roll on top for the pin and the win. And no! The champs are leaving to the back, and Kevin Kelly meets them at the top of the ramp, with Owen saying that he's finally proved that he isn't the blue blazer, while the corporation throws a fit, tossing over ring steps as we head to break. And that blue blazer that did run in was Coco Beware, who we haven't seen since Royal Rumble 93, episode 86. It's good to see the Birdman flying around. We then come back to Shane McMahon and the Stooges making their way out to the ring. Shane takes the mic saying that Kane has been screwing up as of late. Last week he defied Vince, and you never cross the boss. But after the Rumble, you apologized. So tonight, to show that we are a compassionate family, please, Kane, come out and repeat that apology in public. And the Big Red Machine makes his way out, and he has his little voice box thing that he puts up, and he proceeds to apologize again a couple of times. You know, he's like, you probably couldn't hear that at all. And Shane couldn't hear him, just like you probably couldn't hear me. So McMahon forces him to get down on his knee and do it again, which Kane does. But then Shane wants him on both knees. And this is when X-Pac comes out to stop this charade, wanting to know how much crap the Big Red Machine is going to take, telling him to come run with DX, only for Kane to grab the kid by the throat, choke slamming him down to the mat. And the Big Red Machine then drags Pac to a corner where Shane delivers a Bronco Buster, followed by Kane setting his pyro off as we go to commercial. And we come back to a highlight package of our favorite superstars before Lawler sends it to footage of D'Lo Brown being forced to buy tampons for Terry at a Walgreens, where the cashier needs a price check, followed by them recognizing D'Lo and pointing it out to everyone. Lowest denominator joke right there. But that takes us to our fourth match, Val Venis versus Test. And Val debuts his newest production, Saving Ryan's Privates, a video he had made with Ryan Shamrock, where we see him taking a shower with her. And the match gets going with Venis hitting some strikes, knee lifts, a side Russian leg sweep, and some gyrating to start, followed by a big boot and a spine buster. Test then ducks a clothesline and uses Val's momentum to toss him over the ropes to the floor, where Ken Shamrock runs down to whack Venis with a chair across the back, rolling him in, allowing Test to nail a pump handle slam for the pin and the win. Post-match, Ken rushes inside and pushes Test aside to deliver more punishment, when Billy Gunn would run out to make the save, cleaning house only for Val to think it was Badass who hit him. So he attacks Gunn until officials come out to break it up as we go to break. But we come back to our fifth match. Road Dogg, Jesse James, and Al Snow versus the brood of Gangrel and Edge. And we get footage of the bloodbaths that Snow and James had taken in recent weeks. So I guess that was the force that brought them together for this match. And after coming out, the Hardcore Champ and his partner hide to use fire extinguishers to stop the fire circle entrance of the brood. And they brawl to backstage, where Al slams the Vampire Warrior's head into a trunk, uses a trash can and pan over the head of their opponents, until the brood respond by reversing whips to send Road Dogg and Snow into some metal doors and ramming a dumpster into them. More brawling through backstage with plunder being used by everybody, until the brood gives a short ride on a stretcher to their opponents. Al throws a tub of silverware at Gangrel, while James uses a chair over the head of Edge when the Vampire Warrior grabs some steel to hit both men. And Road Dogg's placed on a table, with Gangrel climbing onto a kitchen top to dive off, sending them crashing through, while Snow and Edge have a chair fight. And they brawl their way into a ladies' room, which sends what I can only assume were Godfather's hoes running out to escape the fray, because they were all like nicely dressed women. Why would they be backstage unless they were the hoes? So that's just my guess. And they continue to brawl through backstage, heading up some equipment cases to a steel structure, when Blue Dust appears, handing head to Al to use, causing all four men to fall through tables below, with James falling on top of Gangrel for the pin and the win. Post-match, the winners head back into the arena to celebrate, followed by going to the back with Kevin Kelly, where Snow challenges Road Dogg to a 2 out of 3 falls match for the Hardcore Championship. But before he can answer, the Ministry attacks both men, with the Undertaker on a throne saying, "This will be a holy war of epic proportions," as we head to commercial. And we come back to a ad for St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Tell that special someone how you feel, as quotes from Austin and Mr. McMahon are intertwined. Order now. I mean, order back then, not now, but you get what I mean. But that takes us to our main event, the 6th match. Triple H with Chyna versus The Rock for the WWF Championship in an I Quit match. And the two immediately go after each other, with Rocky bailing when he doesn't gain the advantage, only to quickly return, with Hunter continuing to punch away and tossing The Rock to the floor and connecting with a baseball slide. They continue to brawl their way to the top of the rampway, where Triple H clotheslines Rocky down and asks with the mic, but he doesn't quit. Hunter slams The Rock's head against the steel ramp, taking the fight back to ringside, where Rocky takes control after ramming Triple H into the ring bell and taunting his opponent. Hunter then tackles The Rock, with the two brawling into the crowd, where Triple H uses a cable cord to choke, only for Rocky to refuse to give up. Hunter then whips his opponent into the steel steps before returning to the ring with ring bell in hand. But The Rock avoids and plants Triple H with a DDT. Rocky then places the bell on Hunter's face and delivers a corporate elbow, only for Triple H to not give in. Rock then telegraphs his move, so Hunter hits a face buster and a pedigree. And he goes to ask, but he decides that's not enough. So he tosses Rocky to the floor to deliver another pedigree. And Triple H again decides that he's not done with the punishment. So he takes The Rock onto the announce table when the corporation arrives. And Kane grabs Chyna from behind, while Big Boss Man takes a mic to tell Hunter to say, "I quit," or the Big Red Machine will chokeslam her. So Triple H gives in to save Chyna. Post-match, Hunter gets back in the ring to check on her before staring down Kane when Chyna low blows Triple H from behind, leading to a beatdown from the entire corporation. And the McMahons make their way out with Vince giving Chyna a hug, welcoming her to the corporation as Cole says his goodbyes, and we fade to black. So I ask myself, what are my overall thoughts of this episode of Monday Night Raw? And I do feel like it was a good episode with quite a bit of build up towards our next pay-per-view and even towards WrestleMania, which usually is what makes a good episode of Raw, Nitro. You know, there's not usually, like last week on Nitro, I thought like they gave matches tons of time. They don't do that usually on TV, and we know that. So judging a show by the actual wrestling is a little tough, especially the TV shows. But when storylines do a good job of being built, you kind of have to give it the thumbs up, which is what I did.
Good. Where's the smart marks at? All right, fuck you.
I think it's time I smark it up. And some of the best moments of this episode, and I don't know if you guys know this, I do this live on air. So usually when Michael and Shane are talking, I'm usually like looking through my notes again to like see what I think are best moments. So with them not here, you kind of get to hear me do it live. But Blue Dust, I'm glad they're giving him something other than just being background fodder in the job squad, which, I mean, that's basically what he is, but it's at least giving him some kind of storyline with this Blue Dust thing. I mentioned it when we covered the Royal Rumble a couple weeks ago. I wanted them to show the footage from Sunday Night Heat. They showed it here on this episode, like we talked about, and it, like, I still don't understand why they didn't show it on the Rumble. Like, it makes sense just to literally have him show him saying that I quit and Shane responding, "Thank you for those kind words." It's a great setup. And it foreshadows, it almost like telegraphs. That's the word I'm looking for. Telegraphs what's going to happen. But sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes you got to play to the back row. And this would have played to the back row. And it, obviously leads into Halftime Heat, which, spoiler alert, coming next week. It was good to see George Steele. I'll mention it right now. That's going to be the surprise of the week, because, I mean, I knew he came back, but never knew he actually wrestled a match. So, I guess also a surprise is that the Oddities are done, basically. We won't see them again. I thought Jarrett helping Debra take her clothes off was funny, just because of the history of that. The saltpeter, which was a dumb idea, but once again funny, which is usually what I like. Obviously, Coco Beware coming out as the Blue Blazer is great. Yeah, that's quite a bit there. Let's talk some things that I was kind of disappointed in. Triple H just, like, he knows Chyna can handle herself. Yes, a chokeslam is a devastating move, don't get me wrong. But just to, as soon as they have her, like, just to completely give up was kind of weak. Along those lines is also Vince not knowing his own rules. He steps down and then gets told his own rule that if the number one contender steps down, the number two guy gets the spot. He should know his own rules. He came up with them, probably. The Doc Hendricks segment, like I said earlier, I don't know if it was actually on the Netflix version. I didn't ever check. I meant to. Just didn't get a chance to. And it was weird to have someone basically just run down the entire pay-per-view from the night before, which I know they do sometimes, but usually it's just the like big matches of the show, not like an entire segment running over the entire Rumble. I mean, I didn't like the beta event, guys. I really didn't. And so that's why I couldn't say great episode. I could only say good episode. And best performer of the night. Wow. I mean, no one really does anything spectacular on this episode. So I might give it to X-Pac. Like, showed some cojones, coming down, stepping up to the corporation, trying to get Kane to join him. Maybe a little foreshadowing of a tag team we'll see in the future. But yeah. And then, of course, most surprising, I already said it was George Steele. You could have also mentioned Coco Beware, because that's a fun one as well. I do think we'll see Coco Beware again, but probably not George Steele. At least, I mean, we will see him again. I do know we will see him again. I just don't know when, and it might not be in WWF.
For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Turn the lights down, turn the projector on, because I'm ready to rumble. And this week, I'm covering the film Under Two Flags. It was released May 1st, 1936 by 20th Century Fox. It's directed by Frank Lloyd, who's a 5-time Oscar nominee, having won twice, and written by W.P. Linscomb, who won his only time that he was nominated, joined by Walter Ferris. The movie stars Ronald Colman, who's a 4-time Oscar nominee with 1 win, Claudette Colbert, a 3-time Oscar nominee with 1 win, Victor McLaglen, 2-time Oscar nominee and 1 win, and Rosalind Russell, a 4-time Oscar nominee. So what I'm saying is, this movie had some very good actors in it. And our plot of the film is Sergeant Victor comes to the French Foreign Legion after taking the blame for his brother's crime. Cigarette falls in love with him, though Major Doyle is in love with her. Doyle then sends Victor on dangerous assignments to be rid of him. But then he falls in love with Lady Venetia Cunningham, a visitor to the garrison. So we've added a 4th person to this triangle. That's a square, guys. Some trivia for this movie is only a 95-minute reissue print now exists from the 112-minute original. So there's a good 20 minutes of this film that you're never going to be able to find. And it was originally going to be directed by Todd Browning of Dracula and Freaks fame for Universal, but was abandoned and the rights were sold to Fox. And they were the ones to release it. Some reviews and ratings of this film. IMDb had it at a 6.4, while Letterboxd had it at a 2.9. And our review comes from Frank Nugent of the New York Times in 1936. He says it's a spirited and colorful revival that continues to be a stirring and romantic fable. Miss Colbert, a gracious actress though she is, was not particularly fitted for the role, lacking somehow the wholehearted child of nature qualities imagined. So it sounds like he was kind of in the middle on this movie, while not really caring for Miss Colbert's performance. My review of this film is that Ronald Colman is so charismatic and charming that I was able to accept that 2 women that both fell for him. The cinematography and set design is so good, particularly for the on-location battle scenes with literally hundreds of extras throughout. The story does feel like it's missing something, which makes sense as the only version available to watch is missing 20 minutes, with an entire character cut from the film. And the wrestler of this film is Tor Johnson, who we've seen a few times now. This will be the 4th time we've seen him. He's one of the soldiers in a bar scene, and he has no lines. So I give the movie actually a 3.5, and the wrestler performance a 3.0. I did quite enjoy, even with the story having some lacking elements because of the missing 20 minutes. The epicness that happened and the acting was very good, so I was on board for it. And the 3.0 for Tor, he doesn't do anything to take away from the film, so I'm not going to take anything away from down the middle. Next week, I mentioned it a while ago, but we're going to cover Halftime Heat. That's right. And you can probably find Halftime Heat on an episode of Sunday Night Heat on Netflix. Actually, I know you can. But we are literally just going to cover the match. Because that's all I watched of that Sunday Night Heat. Because I was watching the big game that year. And then halftime hit, and I was like, I don't care about, I want to say it was Phil Collins. We'll talk about it probably next week. I don't care about that. I mean, I do like Phil Collins, but it was Halftime Heat. It was Rockin' Mankind. I got to turn it on. So I turned it over, and I watched Halftime Heat. And I watched that, and then I went back to the big game. So that's what we'll do next week. Music from this week's show is Thorn in My Eye by Jim Johnston. And The Rock won our main event. So we play Do You Smell It? Version 2 by Jim Johnston as well. And if you like this episode or any of our other ones, and if you like this episode more than our other ones, don't tell Michael and Shane. I mentioned it last week. Just don't tell them. We don't want to do the solo show, but we've gone 7 years without missing a week. We all agreed we couldn't give up the gimmick. But you can leave those reviews on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you find your podcast at. If you're doing the YouTube thing, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. Leave a comment on there. We can see it. And if you have any other questions, comments, concerns, I actually had a gentleman email this week with a technical question. Thank you for your email. We appreciate it. You can send those to WrestlingHistoryX@gmail.com. I want to throw in recipes as well, because, Shane's not here. We're going to Tucson, so we're just going down the road. So if you know any other things from Arizona that we could possibly cover, let us know. 'Cause hopefully they'll be back next week. And you can always find us on X at WrestlingHistoX. That's Wrestling HISTOX. We'll talk to you next week. Laters.